Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris and this is the first cutting board I have made in over a decade. And well, why did I make it? Well, because I wanted to. And I've got a lot of hardwoods in the shop. If you follow me on Instagram, I am making 5 dining tables. This video is coming out in the future. But first, I'm gonna show you some of the ones I've made in the past and what I learned back then and what I'm learning now. So let's get right into this video. Okay, disclaimer, I'm using a wood you typically may not use for cutting boards very often, just because of the little bit of porousness that it has. It's a little more porous than you might like, but that's okay. Mahogany is in this, along with hard maple. Hard maple is a no-brainer, you can use it all day. Maple, walnut, you're good to go. I'm gonna show you a couple of things that I've made in the past. This is walnut and Paduke. You can see it's got, it's got quite a bit of wear. This was one of the first ones I made. Actually, this was given to my grandparents years ago, and I have since gotten it back, and we use this in our kitchen quite a bit. The second one I made was this little bitty baby cheese board, and it was my first attempt at end grain. It is holding up pretty well, probably because it's so small. However, I thought I'd try something else and make a bigger one. Didn't work so well. I had inferior tools. Really, I just had inferior knowledge. Let's just be real. You can see this one is cracking quite a bit, and not the good kind of cracking, if you know what I mean. So this one I think is pretty much shot. It's also not been kept in a climate controlled environment. It's been out in my shop for a long time in a storage unit. Who knows? It's just been beat up. But I learned a lot from that, and I've made this. This is this. This cutting board is actually fairly large, being the fact that it is roughly 13 inches this way by 24 inches this way. And it was fun to make, and I'm not quite finished with it. It needs one more little light sanding and another drop into the mineral oil. And I'm gonna bring you through the process of me making this. Sorry to be long-winded, but I had to tell you the story of these, at least a little bit. So let's get into this process and my thoughts on how this one turned out in the end. So I've got a fairly large offcut of this 8/4 maple from a dining table build I'm doing. That project, of course, is in the future, so stay tuned for that. And if you're not subscribed, go ahead and do that now. It's gonna be a pretty cool build. Also, I'm trimming this down on the table saw. Oh God, got me. Either way, coming back to the planer, we're gonna make this thing nice and smooth. A few passes here is all you're gonna need, and I'm gonna sneak in a piece of mahogany here on you too. So although the piece of mahogany is roughly half the width, it's a little bit longer, so I'm gonna trim it to length here. So to make this design element, I'm starting with a 1/2 inch strip, and then I'm making these strips progressively larger by 1/2 of an inch. You see me moving the table saw's fence over, and now I got that effect of large to small strips. The mahogany piece is gonna be done the same way, but because I have half that material, I'm gonna extend the fence only 1/4 of an inch to give you, well, as you see here, here are all the strips. I'm gonna align them by going largest to smallest, and vice versa until I repeat that process all the way down to where the largest piece of maple is on one side and the largest piece of mahogany is on the other. Once you like the design, rotate each piece 90 degrees away from you, at least that's the way I do it, and I flood the surface with glue, spread it evenly, and then put it all back together. Now, you can just clamp this together with your standard bar clamps, pipe clamps, whatever you have on hand. But you can see in the background, I got something a little different. And I have what they call a panel clamping jig. This is a cool wall setup to where you can clamp large pieces together and have it out of the way. It doesn't take up any horizontal space. And honestly, it works pretty well. Still getting used to this tool. This is the first time I've ever done anything on this. And I think it's gonna work pretty well. After the glue is dry, I simply remove all of the top clamps, and there you go. You have a nice, solid piece of material. A little bit of sanding before I put it through the planer, just gonna get all that excess glue off the piece because you don't want that glue getting stuck up in your blades. All right, once the cutting board is nice and smooth, we take it back to the table saw and we square up at 90 one edge. I'm gonna take that edge, I'm gonna flip it over, and on the table saw's fence, I'm cutting 2 pieces that are marked at 1/2 of an inch in width. Extend the fence over again like we did before, 1/4 of an inch. You can see here, from 1 inch to 1/4, I cut 2 strips after every movement, working my way up until I have no material left. What I'm thinking is gonna be a cool effect. Well, I hope it is. So I bring it back to the bench and I kind of play with it a little bit to see what I got going on. I like that look, but I'm gonna try something different, so here goes. I take the 2 thin pieces, bring them front and center, flip 1. I do that same process with each sequential width, and I flip 1 on either side every other time. I hope that makes sense. It kind of creates a little bit of an organized chaos pattern, and I like it because it looks interesting and you can't really tell exactly what's going on. So I dig it, and I think I'm gonna go with this pattern as well. Now, on to some glue and clamps. Of course, you need to glue these pieces together just like you did before. And I'm not gonna put this on the vertical clamping system because of the length of this. I'm just gonna use my standard bar clamps, and this is going pretty well. I will say this, while you're gluing cutting boards up, especially if you're creating a pattern of some sort, you really want to make sure everything is aligned just right, because if you get off a little bit, it'll be visually distracting to the eye, and you don't want that at all. And through the power of editing, of course, the glue is dry, and we're gonna go back to the planer to smooth everything out, and now we have ourselves a cutting board. Now there's a couple final touches we need to do here. I need to break all the edges, they're fairly sharp, and 2, I need to cut it to the right width and length, and I'm just truing it up here on the table saw as you see. Now, I did make a few cutting boards out of a repurposed butcher block a few years ago. It was actually kind of a fundraiser we did at work. However, I found that I liked this technique. I did this on those where I took a 15-degree angle and I put that up about 50 to 60% on each side of the cutting board, and that gives you a nice place to grab and move the thing around without having to use a router and cut in some finger holes or whatever you want. This technique also, I think, looks really good too. Having that kind of tapered in profile, I think it looks great. But I am gonna use my hand router here with a 1/8" round over bit, and we are just going to, or this may be a chamfer bit, quite honestly, and we are going to just chamfer the edges, giving this even more of a shadow line when it's sitting on the table, which I think is a good effect. And then of course I'm gonna do this on the top a little bit. This is an 1/8" round over bit. And then I'm gonna take some 240 grit sandpaper and sand everything flush. You can see I even got some burn marks from the old router bit that I had. Didn't realize the router was that dull, but this sanding technique is gonna take care of that no problem. And now for the very first coat of mineral oil, we're gonna just flood the surface here. And I'm actually gonna hold off on this for a second. I'm actually gonna take you to refurbishing these old cutting boards that I showed you in the beginning of the video. So this is an old walnut and Paduke serving board, cutting board. You can see it's got some use on it, but as I bring it through the drum sander, holy moly, look at that color come right back. Of course, you could just do this with your random orbit sander as well. This is just a tool that I ended up picking up to make my workflows just that much more efficient. Now, here's the difference. You can see, well, hopefully you can. That's the underside, and then that's the top side. Look at the difference in the colors. You bring those pieces of wood back to life, everything looks really nice, and it also gets rid of any cut marks that you have. And of course, I got some
You're doing such
here.
a good job. No, we don't sand the banana. We sand the cutting board. Nice technique. Good job, baby. Give me a thumbs up. Good job. All right. Nice work. Hold on, let's do it again. You wanna do a high five now? All right.
Always a pleasure to have her help me around here for sure. You guys are so gracious and so kind, and so really thoughtful when you comment about her being in here with me. It's really nice. So now time for some final sanding at 320 and then a flood coat on all these cutting boards with some mineral oil. I got this thing located just in a big plastic container. This is about 1 gallon in there, and I like to flood the surface and then just let them dry, let the wood soak in. And it's really cool not only to make a new cutting board, something new that you're gonna have for a long time, but to see these old things come back to life. It's been kind of a cool experience for me, taking me back to when I worked out of a 1-car garage that was smaller than a 1-car garage to this shop I have now. I feel so lucky and so fortunate, and it's been a fun ride, and this was kind of a bit of nostalgic for me as well. And I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Well guys, thank you so much for joining me for this. This project was really was great for me to do because I haven't made one of these in so long. And that first large one that you saw in that first clip, you see that didn't really turn out. Now, that was not really inferior materials because you can make a lot of great things with very base level materials or base level tools. But the thing was, I'm really surprised at how these came back to life the way they did. And this one, well, hey, turned out great in my eyes. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. I love talking to you guys down there. I love to hear from you for sure. And thanks again. Your viewership is enough for me. But I do want to let you know, if you want to help support this channel even further than you already do by watching these videos, we do have a Patreon campaign down below. And there are some rewards and tiers. I'm going to leave a link down below. You can check that out as well. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. I'll see you on the next video. And until then, y'all stay safe. Thanks again.